The story of what happened to the Spyro the Dragon series is by far one of the most nonsensical, senseless things that humanity has cooked up, and that's saying a lot considering life. Imagine you like something a lot, like a slice of pizza. Most people can relate to pizza. You once came across the perfect slice of pizza. Pizza loved you, and you loved it so much that you cherished and cared for that pizza for years. And then some millionaire wizard turned your pizza into Lord of the Rings. Then took a couple characters from that Lord of the Rings and made G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe! True story, by the way. Sure, a lot of you are asking what the flying heck any of that even means, and hey, I don't know either. That's what happened to Spyro, and that's the best analogy that I could come up with. Spyro was my perfect slice of pizza, and then along came good old Activision with all their money, and they said, Insomniac Games, who, by the way, made the Spyro series, but I'm not sure why I'm saying that when directly addressing you. If you want, we'll take this perfect slice of pizza off your hands to continue its legacy without further burden being put upon your shoulders. And they said, okay, guy who sounds a lot like Bane. Then Activision just shoved Spyro in a closet until they actually did want to continue his legacy, but they had watched too much Lord of the Rings and said, what if Spyro was Frodo? And bam! Throw in some filler gameplay and actually get Frodo to voice him, and you're done. Great job, Activision. You made Lord of the Rings even though it already existed, and at the cost of one of the most beloved video game characters of all time. But it's okay. You threw David Spade in there, and he can make people laugh, so kudos to you and your great plan. Too bad the plan failed to make enough money, and then you forgot about it anyway. Why? Now, considering pretty much 100% of everything I just said was complete gibberish to anyone who doesn't know the story, allow me to start from the very beginning. I thought I was your perfect slice of pizza. Well, I mean, you could be my perfect slice of cardboard? Okay. Once upon a time, there was a very small video game maker known as Extreme Software. Now, good old Extreme Software were in a tough spot, as things were very different back then for new and upcoming developers. Today, you have thousands of new independent video game creators making thousands of new games all the time on platforms like mobile phones or online markets for little to no cost, pretty much. But back in the 90s, it was much harder to distribute your games, and it actually cost money. Who knew? Unlike today, when any random dude can make a game about a cheap from Super Mario that has only one function, go up slightly, and instantly be overwhelmed with its reception. Anyway, that's a topic for another time, but things were much more complicated and costly back in the 90s if you wanted to make your own games. Extreme Software started by making a game called Disruptor, a first-person shooter for the PlayStation 1, or as it's called today, PlayStation? Sure, we'll go with that. Anyway, the game Disruptor ironically disrupted their dreams of being game developers. It did so badly that the company was on the brink of bankruptcy. In other words, they pretty much couldn't make any more mistakes, or they would be known as the not-so-very-extreme games, because they would be dead. They decided that they would spend their last chance on another game for the PlayStation. Somehow, one of their employees must have reached enlightenment, because the game they made was a near masterpiece. Please don't kill me for my opinion. Introducing Spyro the Dragon. He's a dragon. Enough said. Best character, 1998. This game is not only one of my favorite titles of all time, but it's pretty much what saved the life of Extreme Software. And also kind of ended its life because then they changed their name to Insomniac Games. But point is, everyone kept their jobs, and the game was a massive hit. So for those of you who have yet to experience this game, what is Spyro the Dragon, and what about it was done so well that it could save Insomniac Games? Well, not to brag, but I may love this game way too much and analyze it more than I should, so you may have come to the right place. Maybe. Spyro the Dragon for the PS1 was a platformer/collectathon game, which most of you today probably think sounds like a bad thing, but trust me, it's a very good thing, and how dare you think otherwise just because it's a collectathon? See, today, collectathon platformers are seen as a cheap gimmick. For the past many years, it's been used as a child-attracting, cheaply satisfying genre, used in a lot of video games based off movies that are uninspired, or for series that don't have enough time or money to have gameplay that requires a lot of thought. Even though the genre does require a lot of thought, and can be good, but anyway, I'm not gonna go there again. It's just overall seen as a gimmick, and fair enough, we don't get many good ones anymore. But there was a time when we did, and that is where Spyro thrived. The late 90s were really what started the collectathon/platformer craze, and leading the stampede were Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64 and Spyro. Despite both games being for different video game consoles, these two beasts defined the collectathon platforming genre and showed just how well it could be done. Of course, this eventually led to everyone trying to do it, and now nobody likes it. because almost no one's doing it right because both Spyro and Banjo are dead. So yes, Spyro helped define that genre by doing things ever so very correctly. So you've all probably played a game like this before. You gotta collect the things by looking in every crevice and corner, but why is it fun in this game, and why is it seen as a bad thing in games like Mario Sunshine? Well, first off, I don't think that Mario Sunshine is bad, let's just be very clear. I think it's actually pretty underrated, but the coin collecting, it's a load of shish. In Mario Sunshine, you complete objectives and missions for the Pineapple Fruit People. Pineapple to get Shine Sprites, which are needed to beat the game. You only need like 50 to beat the main story, but there are a total of 120 overall. To get some Shine Sprites, you have to find hidden blue coins in each location. And no, I haven't done it because it's flipping impossible, and it's one of the reasons some people don't like this game. Is it the fact that you collect a lot of things that makes it bad? No, absolutely not. It's the fact that they are hidden so well that you have to watch a walkthrough to find them unless you're willing to put all your hours into this game, and that is a lot of hours. Look at this coin. It only appears if you spray this sign with your flood. Why? Who would do that? Who just walked over to this sign and said, well, golly gee, I guess I'll spray this sign for no particular reason whatsoever, and then all of a sudden, bloop, coin comes out. Nobody ever did that, ever. Whoever found this one was either unspeakably lucky and just so happened to spray this sign for no reason, or they literally sprayed every inch of the level until they found it, and I'm guessing it's that one. And now the possibility of where the coins could be are completely endless. For all I know, the only way to beat the game is to spray every inch of the entire world until you find them all. I'm sorry for yelling, I actually really love this game. Anyway, that's the issue with collectathons, or collecting segments in games like Mario Sunshine that aren't done right. The people making them hide everything way too well so that you just give up, or they don't hide them at all so the game is just too easy and it's seen as something for little kids. Spyro, on the other hand, got the formula just right. Never did there come a time where I felt like I couldn't finish the game. Everything was hidden well enough to be a challenge, but not too much to drive me insane like Mario Sunshine. Which I still love. That is why Spyro and Banjo define the genre, and how other games gave it a bad name. So Spyro was great. It sold well, it was fun, it was fresh, it was exactly the kind of thing that Insomniac Studios needed to stay alive. But they didn't stop there, oh no. Over the next couple of years, they released 2 sequels to the original PlayStation Spyro game, and by some miraculous power, each one was better than the last. Spyro, along with games like Crash Bandicoot and the Resident Evil series, were a huge help in getting Sony's first video game console off the ground, and things were looking pretty good going into their next project, the PlayStation 2. But little did they know that the fall of one of the most beloved video game franchise of all time would begin with the coming generation. Find out what happens next time on the Petter Knetter Show, right now. Because it's all just one big video. But I'm trying to be funny, so don't question it. Welcome back to the Petter Knetter Show. I hope you enjoyed those couple seconds of black screen for no particular reason whatsoever. So the future was looking pretty bright for Spyro. Being an exclusive series on a now thriving video game console was reassuring to say the least. But behind the scenes, Insomniac Studio was going through a lot of unrest and complication, and things definitely didn't turn out how we expected. I've never been 100% sure what happened. I've heard a lot of stories from a lot of different sources, but from what I can tell, it seemed like Insomniac Studios somehow still wasn't making enough money to keep their doors open. Despite Insomniac Games themselves being the masterminds behind the games, Spyro was still owned by Universal Studios and published by Sony. So if you could imagine, the profits from all the Spyro games were split 3 ways, most likely with Insomniac getting the least of it. In addition, it was said that the developers had run out of ideas for Spyro. They said there's only so much they can do with the character that has no hands. No, literally, that's exactly what they said, which is extremely offensive, because Spyro's perfect the way he is! Dude, we haven't even gotten to the Legend series yet. Chill, you must pick your battles wisely. But the whole thing is just... why is this love so painful? You could have chosen me as your perfect slice of pizza. Really, again? I would never put you through so much pain. Okay, this is getting a little bit creepy. Okay, agreed. Okay. Alright. Carry on then. Yeah. They made a decision that I guess I don't blame them for, to be honest. In order to keep their doors open, Insomniac stopped making Spyro games and left it up to Universal Studios to find a new developer for the upcoming generation. At this point, Insomniac's role in the story of Spyro is over. We shall part ways with them for the rest of this video, but at least they get a fairly happy ending. They moved on to a project called Girl with a Stick. I don't know, it never went anywhere. But they eventually created many new series, including Ratchet and Clank. And just like Spyro did with the PS1, Ratchet & Clank was a huge staple in the PlayStation 2's lifetime, and it's still one of Sony's biggest exclusives. Today they're still doing well with a pretty large assortment of different games, and to be honest, I can't say that they would still be here if they had kept on the same course with Spyro. But it's still a shame that the Purple Dragon had to take the fall for it. Insomniac Studios, you will be missed, but at least you get to thrive on. Now, Spyro left his home at Insomniac Games and ventured forth into the world to start a new life. He was at least free now to go on any console or handheld that he wanted, besides just PlayStation. And he started out with 2 exclusive games for Nintendo's big hit, the Game Boy Advanced, which really wasn't that bad a course of action. Spyro Season of Ice and Season of Fire were counterpart games for the Game Boy Advanced, and did a fine job despite the restrictions of being on a non-3D handheld. They tried to take the third-person view formula and move it onto a non-3D platform, which really doesn't work well most of the time, but it could have been quite a bit worse. The music was still catchy, the graphics were stylized, and it was a fair bit of fun. It would never be the same as on a 3D console, but for what it's worth, I enjoyed it as filler until the next big title came along. And of course it wasn't long until it did. And boy were we Spyro fans excited. It was finally time to see how Spyro could do what he does best without Insomniac, and we finally got our next 3D Spyro game, Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. This GameCube and PS2 title brought back the classic platforming and collecting that we knew from the old PlayStation 1 days. And although we weren't expecting too much compared to the PlayStation 1 trilogy, I was just happy to have Spyro back. That being said, the game kinda got mixed opinions. It had the same gameplay for sure, but it just didn't have the same charm that Insomniac brought to it so many years ago. There were some obvious issues, such as glitches from the game being rushed, but half the time it just lacked liveliness and charm that we love from the series. Some locations in the game felt monotone and lacked feeling or personality, while some were colorful and filled with creativity. Some collectibles were hidden well and felt satisfying to discover, while others just felt extremely out of the way and pointless. Overall, the game was inconsistent to say the least, but sadly, just like the Game Boy Advance titles, it felt more like filler until we got that next big Spyro game that we were all waiting for, which at this point felt like something that we could never get again, and may have just been wishful thinking. But then, bam! Spyro A Hero's Tale existed. This title for GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2 was solid, yet different, and I think that's exactly what Spyro needed to some extent. This game was much more platforming based, and it had all new characters, it had a nice style of graphics, I guess Pinkie Pie was in it, I don't know. But with all the change, it still felt like a Spyro game, and that's one of the big mistakes that the previous game had made. See, Enter the Dragonfly felt like it was just more filler because it tried to be everything that the old games were, and at the time, that's what I thought we all wanted. But that's just not something that you could ever do without Insomniac developing it. So again, it felt like a failed attempt to most people. Now, A Hero's Tale, although it wasn't as good as the original trilogy, was still its own thing. It felt fresh, like it was trying to be a good game, rather than trying to live up to the past and be a good Spyro game. The changes were good, a step in the right direction, plus Pinkie Pie, I guess. But, and this is a big but, you wouldn't want to change him too much. No, you have to keep somewhat to the original source material. You wouldn't want to take the classic Spyro that we all know and love and change him into something completely different, like Lord of the Rings, and just turn him into Frodo, and then just, hey, throw David Spade in there, because he's funny. He can make some jokes, right? He's just a cute little dragonfly. Wouldn't that be, yes, I'm building up to something, and yes, I'm very triggered. If he could only just relax, he would see that I'm here for him. You know, I can hear you. Well, I can't have inner monologue or the microphone won't pick it up, so excuse me, princess. Meanwhile, as Spyro was slowly getting back into shape, some crafty things were going on in another world of the gaming industry. Remember the collectathon genre's other good friend, Banjo-Kazooie? Well, as those of you who have heard the legend will know, poor Banjo-Kazooie was maliciously attacked by a foe so powerful that not even the strongest of video game heroes could survive its grasp. Publishers buying developers. Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie was owned by a developer called Rareware, who made top-notch games, a lot like Insomniac. But sadly, even more like Insomniac, the company ran into financial problems after games like Star Fox Adventures failed to impress most people. And eventually, they were sold off to Microsoft, one of the most powerful and wealthy companies in the industry. You would think Banjo-Kazooie would have been safe there, but sadly, Microsoft was playing with Legos too much and said, "Hey, what if we made Banjo-Kazooie into making cars?" And the rest was too tragic and gruesome to show. They died. Yeah, pretty much. Now, Banjo and Kazooie hadn't been in a game in a long time, and Rare was in a tough spot, so you could say the franchise was vulnerable, but good old Spyro, he was on the straight and narrow, making his way to solid ground. So he couldn't possibly— okay, who am I kidding? You all know what's coming. Activision, of all companies, bought the rights to Spyro, and he was once again adopted into a new family. Guess they wanted to put him in Call of Duty or something. I don't know why they bought him. And from there, a lot of you know what happened. You know they took him and they made him into something that he isn't. They put him in a game that triggers me, and he's never recovered to this day. And to be honest, this game really isn't that bad. The Legend of Spyro, a new trilogy starring Frodo, not Spyro. At this point, the Spyro we knew was gone. There's just no two ways about it. Spyro no longer existed in his own games. The gameplay first off was changed from a collectathon platformer to a button-mashing beat-em-up. The story was changed from a simple hero versus villain adventure into a serious tale of a dragon trying to find his place in the world, and learning that he was prophesized to save the universe from a great evil. And lastly, they took the upbeat, cocky, and charming character that we knew and loved, who was voiced by Tom Kenny himself, and changed him into a calm, unsure orphan, voiced by Elijah Wood. To me, this was extremely bittersweet, but a little more bitter in most cases. The Spyro I knew was gone, and the trilogy was to blame, but at the same time, it really did feel like an okay game that needed a chance, but I just couldn't help but dislike it. I wanted to give this game a chance, I really did. I just couldn't get over what it represented. But enough moaning out these metaphors, what was this game? The Legend of Spyro: A New Beginning was everything that its title implied. A new story, new characters, new everything. The biggest change would be the mood and story. I've compared it to Lord of the Rings so many times that I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, oh come on, Patter, just because it's got Elijah Wood doesn't mean it's Lord of the Rings. Silence! Yes it does. I mean, no it doesn't, but the game still feels like Lord of the Rings. It's a trilogy about a boy who leaves his small town with his quirky friend to fulfill a prophecy to save the world while learning from an elder about his true strength, and along the way hopes to find out who he really is. And yes, everything I just said could be used to describe this game or Lord of the Rings. So don't tell me that it's not the same, because it definitely is, and I'm actually not too triggered about this part of it specifically. Actually, I don't care too much. But the character changes! Spyro used to be a bright, eager dragon loaded with smart remarks and a cocky attitude. The dialogue of him talking with other characters was for me the biggest reason to progress in the classic PlayStation 1 games.
What I mean is, I always believed in you, Spyro.
You gotta believe.
The cutscenes were very funny, clever, and maybe even revolutionary for its time. So how do you go from Tom Kenny, aka the voice of SpongeBob,
Come back when you finish witch school, okay?
to, well, just Frodo?
So, you mean I'm not your real son?
First off, he looks so different. Yes, he's still a purple dragon, but that doesn't make him Spyro. And yes, his character literally is Frodo. He's voiced by Elijah Wood, yes, but his personality, I swear, is based after the main character from the Lord of the Rings series.
He's a character that sort of starts out entering into a world that he's unfamiliar with. It's not dissimilar from a journey that I'd taken before.
He's serious, unsure, and still has some fun banter with his companion. Oh, and as for that companion, Sparks here has been by Spyro's side in every single game ever, throughout all these changes. He was just this cute little dragonfly who grabbed items for you and literally was your health. He had pretty much no voice and just made a bunch of weird little gibberish sounds. So hey, why not get David Spade to play him, and make him a cocky smartmouth who's actually mildly horrifying looking? Because doesn't that just say Sparks the Dragonfly?
You mean you don't know?
Does it sound like he knows?
But, that all being said, personal feelings aside, it was done just fine. Spyro is a fine character in this game. He's likable, he fits the story that they put him in. The story is done to death, but it still feels like an epic adventure. And making it into a trilogy where you get to see Spyro grow into an adult is interesting and engaging. David Spade does a good job with Sparks. He's still creepy looking, but he's also funny. He's David Spade, and his relationship with Spyro is there, so I'll give him that. And the gameplay. People say that collectathons are cheap and easy, and I say that beat-em-ups are more so. And the gameplay for this title didn't make me want to come back and play it. It's fine, it's just good enough for me to feel bad for disliking it. My mind is pretty much torn in two. Half of me wants to despise this game for being the real ending of the Spyro that I loved, but to be fair, I want to give this game a chance because many people are too harsh on it. I tried, I really did, and I just can't tell if it was the gameplay or the fact that it changed Spyro that held me back from enjoying it much. After a lot of thinking about the first in the Legend of Spyro series, I really do think I'm being fair with it when I say it's just not worthy of the legacy that Spyro left behind. I say that I think I'm being fair because I actually do get why people like it. This trilogy actually has a massive following. Sure, it's mostly newcomers who didn't play the original Spyro games, but people make original characters, fanfictions, fan art. It's got actually a fandom worth talking about. And so much of that I can really understand. Despite my opinion on the gameplay and my personal issues, I couldn't help but like Spyro in this game. I couldn't help but be invested in the story and wonder what would happen next. I still look forward to the cutscenes, just like I did in the original games. And after the first game was all done, I did want to find out what would happen next. On top of that, this game's trilogy gained Spyro so many new fans who went on to play the original Insomniac trilogy, and we got to introduce an entire new generation to its greatness. Overall, I can't say that we would have been better off if Insomniac kept Spyro. I can't say that we'd have been better off if Activision never bought him. But what I can say for sure is that no matter which games you like and don't like, Spyro now has such a diverse fandom of many different ages and origins. I'm still healing from what Activision did to Spyro, but one thing I have to hold on to is that for all that Activision may have changed or even killed, it brought such a massive new group of fans to the Spyro franchise. And if our beloved Purple Dragon ever wants to make another return, he'll have a multitude of fans, old and new, to make that return a massive success. And that's definitely something comforting enough to let anyone forgive. But still never forget. Well, after all that, I'm here for you. If you want to cry it all out now that you're done ranting on it, I have a metaphoric shoulder to lean on. What is it with you today? Do you want to kiss or something? What? No. Oh, chill. Jeez. I just feel like we used to be closer, you know? Past couple episodes, I feel like we've been arguing too much. That's mostly because you complain a lot. True, but still. Okay then. We cool, bruh? Did you just call me a bra? No. Nah, alright, I'm content. Plus, you'll thank me for my overreactive emotions later. This video needed some side drama. You can't just make a video this long and only say the word Spyro 100 times. Who the heck is gonna watch that? Well, I mean, I'd watch it. Yes, pretty much my point exactly. Plus, I'm glad I stopped you before you got to talking about Skylanders. That would have taken a whole nother video. That's true. Now, crud. Okay, that was a heck of a long video. My voice is dying at this point, but we're not over yet. Yes, our next video will be talking about Skylanders and toy-based games such as Disney Infinity or Nintendo's Amiibo. There's actually a lot to say about that, and we'll bring some closure to the topic of Spyro's lifetime, and maybe make a bit of an estimate on what might happen to him in the future. I hope you stay tuned for that, and remember, if you like this music, don't forget to check out DJ BassFox28. He made this, and he's got tons of other remixes and original music on his channel, so definitely go and check that out. As always, thanks a ton for watching and for all your support. We'll see you in the next video. Have yourselves a wonderful day.